Hi, Mac.
How's it going?
Good. I'm excited for this week. We got comics, we got movies, we got TV, we got video games.
Yeah, a
So,
lot, a lot happening in the Marvel universe right now, aside from just WandaVision.
one division, one division.
That is still the theme song that gets stuck in my head. All these weeks later, that's still the one.
Because I know all the words to that one.
Exactly, that's what I said too.
So, should we get started with comics? That's where it all began.
Let's jump into it.
King in Black, #4, obviously written by Donny Cates, art by Brian Stegman. I don't know where this cover came from, but there are a few X-Men in it, but it's not really the point.
Yeah, I did think this was going to be like weirdly X-Men centric, and it wasn't. I mean, like you said, there are some X-Men in it, and they play a pretty big role, but it's not, not getting away from the big story to focus on the X-Men or anything.
Yeah. So, what do you? I know you're a big fan of King in Black. So, what do you think of the 4th installment?
Yeah, this was a really good week. There were a lot of good comics this week, but like I said a few weeks back when we read King in Black #3, you could probably go ahead and pencil all of these in for my pick of the week from here on out. And this still got the job done. This whole series has just been. I have to go back and like actually count the number of pages or something, because it feels like every 5 or 6 pages there's another big reveal, and it's incredible that the pace has been kept up this long, because every issue there's at least 2 or 3 big things happening that you just keep getting caught off guard by it, and it's amazing. And I mean, this issue was no different. It was a lot of fun, and some huge things happened in this issue.
Kyle, I'm not going to comment, but just leave that there. Yeah, so it's my pick of the week too, and I hate it being my pick of the week because I feel like picking the big event book is so lazy. Especially since I'm pretty sure if I've not picked every issue of King in Black main title, I at least pick most of them. But it's just so good. It's the way I've talked. I mean, I'm going to sound like a broken record, but the way it's able to be a big event book, but not become unwieldy where it's just super cosmic and you don't care. I mean, it's grounded yet epic and surprising. It's not, I'm not one to be like, oh, wow, there's this major thing at the last page because, it's comics, whatever, right? But it's all about how you get there. And
Right.
I really liked this issue. In fact, I liked all the King of Black issues this week, but I think this one, because of its scope and propelling the story forward, I thought was really good.
Yeah, I like that you mentioned how grounded this is, because it is this huge epic crossover event with these like major ramifications, and it lets the tie-ins get into those crazy sort of stories that go into different dimensions and stuff like that. While this is all pretty much just set in New York. I mean, it gets into some characters' heads and stuff. That's just the nature of symbiotes and but it is like you said, grounded, and keeps the fight on the streets, even though it is worldwide. And we've seen tie-ins, like I said, get into Wakanda and Atlantis and stuff like that. But this main storyline has been happening in New York, as a lot of Marvel stories do.
And the reveals are not done are done in a way where it's not just completely out of left field, yet you don't necessarily expect them, which I appreciate. It's not like there's some books where you go like, okay, I know where this is going. Oh wow, look, it went there. And there's some where it's like, that makes no sense. Like, you're just doing this to make
it
crazy. But
this made sense, and still, when I saw the reveal, I was like, completely caught off guard. Didn't expect to see that character in that spot, and it makes sense with the story and keeps things moving forward.
And it teases you because you think it might go a different way with a different sort of cosmic entity, but then it doesn't, which I thought was cool. It didn't do it in such a way where you're like, oh, you led me to believe this. It's like, maybe, and it did it with a soft touch. It was very expertly done.
Yeah. Sorry, you're probably about to say the same thing, but we should probably point out that there is a sneak peek of Demon Days in here. Yeah, there you go. I will say this story doesn't seem like it would be my favorite, but the art in it is incredible. I already want some art like this in this style to put on my wall.
Yeah, it's neat to see things because you know the main Marvel universe. So, but it's done in a completely different storytelling way without being completely inaccessible. Sometimes like those other ones, it's like, here's X-Men as Shakespeare. And then you're like, but I'm not the world's biggest Shakespeare fan, so I don't get what you're trying to do here.
Right.
This one, like, you don't need to be a complete expert in Japanese storytelling to get, the concepts here. And I bet if you are, there might be, you might have a great appreciation of it, but it's still enjoyable. And I'm looking forward to it coming out whenever that may be.
Yeah, definitely. I'm looking forward to more of that amazing artwork.
So keeping the King in Black train rolling, there's the obvious teaming of Deadpool and Conan. Hanging out at the Hellfire Club. I love the Haunted Mansion style portraits of Emma Frost and Sebastian Shaw here.
That's what I went for today, was this theming behind me. This isn't there all the time. That's just for this episode.
And I keep wanting to call him Sebastian Stan, but that would be different.
That would be different, yeah.
What do you think of this one?
I liked it. It's funny that you pointed out the Hellfire Club on the cover here, because I didn't even pay attention to that as I got into this book. And then when the reveal of it came, I was kind of like, oh, that's awesome. I can't wait to see what happens with this. So that probably stupidly caught me off guard. But Deadpool is obviously so incredibly entertaining. He can carry any book that he's in. And I kind of wish we got more of him in this, but I also think they used him well to keep the story going and probably get more of him in future issues, wherever this story goes. Because to be honest, couldn't tell you. This could go a lot of different ways. This is one of the most fun tie-ins of King in Black, but also feels loosely connected. So there's a lot of freedom for them to go in a lot of different directions here.
Yeah, and it's fun, but it's also not pure comedy. There's like neat story there too. It's not just joke after joke like Deadpool can get. There's like a neat thing, especially on the Conan side, obviously. There's some interesting things that I'm curious to see how that plays out. And which I believe this has one more issue for the storyline. So I'm looking forward to it. I probably enjoyed issue 1 a little bit more. I shouldn't say issue 1, issue 17, which was the first issue of the story, more than I enjoyed this one. But I think it does set up some cool payout in the next issue. Our next King of Black tie-in is Miles Morales Spider-Man, number 23. I'd like to point out legacy number 263, which makes me realize how long Miles Morales has been around, which I remember when they killed Peter Parker in the Ultimate Universe, and then they were like, and they revealed Miles Morales, so I feel old now. They must have double shipped it, because there's no way it's been.
No, yeah, there have been different series going and stuff like that. So,
but as you can tell, this cover is actually accurate. Miles Morales battles a symbiotized Ms. Marvel.
Yeah,
and there's consequences.
This would be my pick for tie-in of the week if we were going to make that a thing. And yeah, no, I really like this one. Miles is such a great character and fits in with this story. Obviously has some familiarity with symbiotes and actually Null, given his role in Absolute Carnage, which, by the way, Absolute Carnage was an incredible sort of mini crossover arc. And that has completely been overshadowed by King in Black now. So that's how good King in Black is. But yeah, Miles is always entertaining. And like you said, we get Miss Marvel with a pretty big plot point from an issue we had. I think it was either last week or the week before. And I guess we can talk about this now. But symbiotes are able to impersonate humans or superhumans at this point, and that makes things adds another layer of danger. Which makes things exciting. I feel like this wasn't used as a big reveal in this comic, but to me, it caught me off guard. I had just assumed that these symbiote dragons were symbiote dragons. I didn't realize they were actual dragons taken over by symbiotes.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I had that question. It's like, are these just gooey dragons, or because usually the symbiotes bonded to something? And I was like, whatever, like they're not explaining it. And then I was like, oh yeah, like it's an actual lovable dragon underneath all that garbage. So you're like, now I want that to become part of his like whatever you call it, his team is this like fun-loving dragon that had this horrific experience thanks to our friend Noel. But yeah, good issue. Miles Morales is one of those titles that kind of got, I'd say, a little off track with the shutdown. It's in the middle of the Outlawed arc, and then like I feel like it just never really paid out right. But just because the timing with the different books, the different teen books, it's just like that Outlaw storyline just kind of seemed to kind of come in spits and spurts. Not that it's a bad story, it just never really worked the way I think they intended it to. So it's nice to see him kind of, I would say, recalibrate a little bit with this book. Yeah.
And that's a shame too, because I was excited about that Outlawed story, and I like the little bits and pieces of it that we've seen. But it's going to be one of those where I have to wait until everything hits Marvel Unlimited and then just kind of binge through all of it at once, because I feel like there's a good story there.
Yeah, I think, and I mean, that's my perspective on it. I don't know if maybe I could be completely full of it, but I just felt like it started and then the books kind of started coming back one by one, as opposed to just being sort of like a mini event, which it kind of felt like it wanted to be.
Right.
But we got one more tie-in this week. This is Planet of the Symbiotes. This is sort of like the anthology series of this book, of the event. It has two stories this time. The first is with American Kaiju over here on the right. He's, for those of you that didn't remember, he's basically a test subject for the super soldier serum that goes wrong. So he becomes a guy for, I shouldn't say goes wrong. Who knows what their plan was, but he becomes sort of like kind of like a good abomination, sort of shortcut. But he's he's a kaiju like Godzilla. And then the second story is with Hornet, aka what's the name?
The Prowler.
What's that? The Prowler.
Yeah.
The Prowler as a good guy. And kind of just tells other stories happening while the whole world is covered in black goo.
Yeah, I was a little bit disappointed that we didn't get back to the story from the first Planet of the Symbiotes issue, because I was excited to see, and the name is escaping me, the new symbiote that we had introduced to us in in the first issue that Null resurrected more or less in that last issue. I'm excited to see where that story goes, but I did really like this one. This was actually my introduction to American Kaiju. I've heard of the character. This is the first I've read of him. He's absolutely ridiculous. And being a big fan of Godzilla movies, I really like this character. And feels like they could use him a little bit more in the fight than what we actually did. But there were some really cool nods to like Godzilla movies and stuff in this, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I like how the stories are all diverse. I mean, we had 3, I think, in the first issue, and 2 here. And I like, usually during big events they do this kind of like. Meanwhile, I know Siege did it. I know other books have done it. So, but it's not so much. It's about telling a story over here, which may tie into something later, but it's not really that important. It's just saying, here's other ways that this event is affecting other characters. And it's a great way to get minor characters like American Kaiju some attention.
Yeah, I will say too, the other story, the Prowler or the Hornet story, did feel more important. Like that felt more tied into everything, and interested to see where that plays out too.
Next, we have X-Men Legends #1, and as you can see with their sort of retro cover here, the idea behind this book is to have original creators tell X-Men stories that they kind of meant to tell, but either didn't get a chance to, kind of closing loops on some of those open threads that sometimes when creators leave books kind of keep dangling. So in this one, despite the fact, well, I guess so, this one's really about the Summers family. You got Cyclops, Havoc, and Atom. and kind of trying to figure out what their whole family relationship is like, which was never really that whole dynamic was never really completely told in the X-Men mainline storybook. So, what was your thoughts here?
Yeah, I really liked this issue. The artwork, threw me back to the 90s. I can hear the X-Men animated series theme playing in my head right now.
Yeah.
It was very nostalgic. It was really cool to get back into this sort of classic X-Men, given what we have with the X-Men right now. And we've talked about how they're not really the X-Men anymore. It's just the mutants and Krakoa and all that. So it was really cool to get back to what I thought was going to be a simpler X-Men story. And then, of course, they chose to focus on the most complicated aspect of the X-Men, that being the Summers family and who is or is not related to them. So that there was that, but it still was very easy to follow in this particular issue.
I thought it was funny how they they do the character introductions. It goes like Professor Xavier, telekinetic mutant, whatever, and
right.
Telepathic mutant, and you're like, okay, yeah, this is it's like reading I would say late 80s, early 90s comic. I don't know exactly when the storyline originally took place, but it feels maybe 92, 93-ish.
Mm-hmm.
And they I mean, half the people on this cover are not in this issue. But it gives, by looking at it, you get that definite vibes.
Yeah, I appreciate that they included so many characters in this one. This is a rare instance where I don't mind the misleading cover because just give me more of this art. I love it.
So, let's talk a little bit about last week on Disney Plus. We'll start with WandaVision. It is the first time where I watched it, and I'm like, I'm a big fan of the weekly release. I do not like the binge. I mean, for the people who want to wait and binge it, that's fine. But I like being able to talk about the episodes and digest them, and not just have different people on different places or have to invest in 6 hours if you don't want to get spoiled on this Friday. But it's the first time I was like, I need more. I need more. You cannot end here. I just need more. I need to know who this guy is that they keep teasing, because they keep teasing it, which means it's not just Joe from accounting, presumably. And I need to know what Pietro's deal is, because he seems to get, and there's so many nods, he refers to the kids as demon spawn.
Yeah.
It's neat to see the kids get their powers. And I cannot wait till Friday.
Yeah, and like you pointed out last week, Thursday is kind of that rough day, right? We have other stuff going on. We have comics and everything else, but we hit Thursday and there's just sort of nothing happening except waiting for WandaVision. So tomorrow's gonna be a rough day for us. But I agree. This episode, to me, because the previous one ended on such a huge moment and, introducing Pietro and giving us something, that kept the audience buzzing for a full 7 days. And I felt like this most recent episode didn't really do that, didn't give us that moment. It didn't answer any questions or give us any new ones. It just stretched things out. And that has us, chomping at the bit, waiting for any new information we can possibly get. This gave us a lot of, like you said, nods to different theories and stuff like that, but didn't confirm nor deny anything. It just has us waiting.
Well, and if the show wasn't produced months in advance, I'd be like, wow, they're really reacting to fan theories and teasing, Lost to do. But no, I mean, this was obviously done well before the first episode aired.
Right.
And I just want to know, I know once it's done, I will be sad because it will be done. But I mean, and it's weird things I want to know what's going on with the sword guy, whatever his name is. Yeah, I want to know what his deal is. I want to know what's going on with Pietro. I want to know who Rambeau feels like she just needs to literally just woke up from a snap and now was buddy texting. Does she even have a modern cell phone at this point? Is it old? So many questions. Although this had a lot of fake outs with like Easter eggs, like names, and you'd be like, "Oh, is that somebody's name?" And it was like someone from the crew, which is great. But
Right.
like, you have to be like, who is that?
Yeah, I definitely have some theories and obviously a lot of thoughts on this past episode too. If you want to get into a deeper discussion, check out this most recent Marvel Monday where Becca and I discussed it, and then the latest episode of Zacks of Life podcast that's out right now as well.
Are you suggesting that? Yes, of course. Also on Disney Plus this week was Behind the Mask, which I thought was an excellent documentary. Because they kind of did zero promotion for it, I kind of thought it would be a throwaway thing. But a surprisingly honest yet uplifting documentary about the history of comics, how different people have been portrayed in comics, the evolution, why comics were sort of embraced by the Jewish American community, and then as it's expanded, and what these stories seem to represent in their lives, but then also extending it out to modern day and other people that can see themselves either literally or metaphorically in comics, which I just thought was really cool. It's not Marvel History 101. It's not like it's almost like a 6162. Like if you watch the documentary series on, that's a lot of numbers, but I highly recommend it.
Yeah, it was really, really well made. Definitely very interesting. A lot of stuff that, like you mentioned, it's like a deep dive into a certain aspect of Marvel history, and like a lot of stories that you haven't really heard before. So it was really cool. I will say, I thought I said a few weeks back when we saw a trailer for it that I wasn't sure that it would really focus on the secret identity aspect of that, like being the theme of the whole thing. And I do think they kind of went in a different direction and focused more on inclusion and things like that, which is great, a great focus for a documentary. So it was a little bit different from what I expected, but it was still fantastic, and again, would highly recommend it.
Have I ever gone on my this isn't Marvel, but have I ever gone on my Man of Steel tirade with you?
I don't believe so, no.
I feel like Man of Steel failed to realize that the true person is Clark Kent and Superman is the made up thing. Like Kal-El means, it's his heritage, but it's not who, he has no ties to it. He doesn't remember it. He was a baby. And so he can honor it, but his upbringing came from Smallville, and Clark Kent is the true person. And I feel like Man of Steel spent so much time trying to say Kal-El is the real person and Clark Kent is the mask. Now, obviously, there's a part of it where, like, obviously Clark Kent stumbles and wears glasses to kind of fool people. But I think Clark Kent is much more true to his beliefs than Superman is. I mean, his name's literally Superman. I mean, like, it's not a real person's name. And in Marvel, you have characters that are on both sides, right? Like Thor is the real guy. Mm-hmm. Donald Blake is fake, right? I mean, now it's super complicated, but that whereas Peter Parker is the real guy, Spider-Man is the mask. I mean, you have characters that are on both sides of that dichotomy, but I feel like they totally got Superman wrong in that movie.
Yeah, that's a fair point. That's a movie that I haven't watched in quite a while, so
you're not missing anything. I don't know what he's referring here. Sorry, I'm late. Did I miss the discussion of the Doorman?
Yeah, so if you watched Disney Trivia Live last night, Doobie decided to point out that his new favorite Marvel character is Doorman, and told me to do some research on the character. So I did read quite a bit of Doorman comics last night, actually. And I'm embarrassed to admit that when Doobie brought it up, I couldn't think of who the character was. And I read one comic and I was like, I totally know this character. He's a Great Lakes Avenger. Really, really funny story arc with that whole team. And should point out, Doorman, who more or less, yes, has the powers of becoming a door. He's has some sort of teleportation and creates portals and stuff like that. He's by far not the most lame character on that team. You got Flatman, who is two-dimensional. That's his ability. You have not that she's a lame character. She actually is a great character, but the name for Dinosaur, he's a dinosaur, more or less. So yeah, I recommend checking out some Doorman and Great Lakes Avenger comics.
Great Lakes Avengers to me is like, you're the BT. I mean, I think that's part of the conceit, right? Like, there's no one on there. You're like, wow, they're a Great Lakes Avenger. They're all like the mainline Avengers. They're not the New York Avengers,
right?
I mean, not only was Flatman on the Great Lakes Avengers, he was one of the leaders. and you have Leather Boy.
Yeah.
Squirrel Girl's a big deal now, but like whatever. Monkey Joe. I don't know how we got a hold of him, but whatever.
Mr. Immortal was an interesting character who is essentially just Kenny from South Park. His power is that he just comes back to life after he dies. No other superpower. He just dies a bunch.
That explains South Park.
Yeah.
So we got the new, Disney Plus revealed what they're releasing in March. So we know we get the finale of WandaVision. Falcon and the Winter Soldier will start up. But we also got this. Marvel Studios Assembled will be a new series of specials that will go behind the scenes of Marvel Studios projects. The first one will be WandaVision. It will continue with Black Widow and other things. It's essentially Disney Gallery Mandalorian, except, I mean, that's how I envision it, except it's WandaVision. So, yeah, I mean, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm excited for this. I mean, it's amazing. We had 1 week of a break in between WandaVision and Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and now they filled it for us. So we've got more Marvel content coming. And given how good the making of the Mandalorian was, I can't wait to see. WandaVision especially is the one where I can't wait to see how everything that went into this series, because it's so crazy and there's so many different aspects to it that I can't wait to hear more from the cast and the crew on how they made this ridiculous show.
Also this day, we'll get 4 new episodes of Marvel Legends with Falcon, Winter Soldier, Zemo, and Sharon Carter. Those are sort of like small little clip shows of, it's basically previously on this character.
Right.
So there'll still be some content coming out that week to get us ready for Falcon and the Winter Soldier, which I'm guessing will follow a very similar pattern to Loki, in that we'll get Loki pretty soon after Falcon and the Winter Soldier. So Mack doesn't get to take vacation.
I do have some questions about the Marvel Legends episode on Zemo. Is that going to be any longer than 30 seconds? I mean, how much more do we need to know about Zemo's story? He was in one movie.
Yeah, I don't know. I also don't know that there's a lot to say about Sharon Carter.
Yeah. At least she was in more than one movie, though. Like, she made a couple of appearances, but still, yeah, not a whole lot to go off of there.
And likes making out with people named Captain America. On the movie front, we got some news about Captain Marvel 2.
Yeah, Zoe Ashton will reportedly be playing the villain. And this is probably the first one where we saw casting news for a villain, and I thought, no idea who she's going to be playing. I could not tell you who the villain of Captain Marvel 2 is going to be. They could go a lot of different directions. Do you have any thoughts on that? Because I'm stumped.
I don't know. And Captain Marvel as Captain Marvel is such a new character. Like, I feel like the first movie really led itself to like the Kelly Sue, arc.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's not a lot of history there. And I haven't read a lot of that history. I mean, just because it's so recent. But I honestly don't know. Like, I'm trying to think of like big cosmic characters, like, I mean, I can't imagine she's playing Galactus. It could be, but I don't know. I really don't know.
My only thought is maybe she's the grown-up version of the Skrull of Talos and Soren's daughter from Captain Marvel, and maybe that Skrull ends up being Queen Varanki, who leads the Secret Invasion story arc. That's the only thing that comes to mind. Again, I don't know if Captain Marvel 2 is going to even tie into Secret Invasion. Really, we don't know. How those two will connect. So we'll have to wait and see. But yeah, really not sure. It is interesting that this actress did perform on Broadway with Charlie Cox and Tom Hiddleston. So some Marvel connections there.
Yeah. Kyle wants to know, did they do a Marvel Legends episode on Pietro Peter? They did not. Maybe they should go back and explain.
That would be great to do one on both characters, the X-Men version and the MCU version.
Meanwhile, on the video game front, Hawkeye, and more importantly, Pizza Dog, are coming to the Marvel's Avengers video game from Crystal Dynamics. Also, should be noted that it will also be released on next-gen platforms, so like the PlayStation 5, March 17th.
Yeah, both the new Operation Hawkeye, Future Imperfect, and the next-gen version of this game will be released that same day. This deep dive, we knew about what this operation was going to entail. We knew that Maestro was going to be playing a big role. We got more of the story here. So we found out that the future, in the future, Earth has been sort of decimated by a Kree invasion. We found out that Old Man Hawkeye will be showing up in this. And they pointed out a lot of the different comic arcs that this is drawing from. Obviously, the first appearance of Maestro, which is actually the Future Imperfect Incredible Hulk story arc, the Old Man Hawkeye series, and then My Life as a Weapon, a comic arc we talked about a little bit recently, where they got Lucky the Pizza Dog here from.
Meanwhile, in the comics front, they revealed the new lineup for the Guardians of the Galaxy, which is coming in April in issue number 13, 14, and 15, kind of counting down to that now. So it's quite an eclectic crew. I mean, people might know the crew from the movies. So you got Groot and Star-Lord and Gamora, but you also got Hulkling and Wiccan being featured in WandaVision, Nova, Doctor Doom, Rocket, Skrull. I don't know if that's a specific Skrull or just Skrull, Quasar.
I mean, it looks like the Super Skrull is involved there too. Cole sorry, I don't speak Skrull. My pronunciation might be off. The big name, though, to me, the one that shocked me on this was Doctor Doom. I can't wait to see Doctor Doom being a part of the Guardians of the Galaxy. I think that's a really cool, very different angle.
Yeah, got that right. And it's funny to think of, like, wow, that's really bold for Guardians of the Galaxy, who put a dog, raccoon, tree together in a book. But, such is life. And also, going back to the mutant side of the equation, we got a new X-Men book from our friend, Excalibur writer, Tini Howard, X-Corp #1.
Yeah, this is where we'll find the new X-Men team that they are putting together. I'm still waiting to find out if I'm going to be in this book or not. I haven't heard if I won the contest yet, so we'll have to wait and find out about that one. But I'm excited to find out what this new X-Men team looks like. We've talked about, like I said earlier, how we're wanting to get back to the basics and get that X-Men team, and I'm really curious about where this goes.
Cool. And then we know that there's a new Predator series coming now that our friends at Disney own Fox. So they're doing some Predator covers. They're just variant covers. They have nothing to do with the issue itself, but it's kind of cool to see. Here's the Amazing Spider-Man variant cover by Corey Smith. Then Fantastic Four, number 22, with Reed Richards really staring down the Predator. The aforementioned Guardians of the Galaxy, kind of an ominous version.
Yeah, I really like that one.
The new book, The Mighty Valkyries, the second issue has this, which is actually probably my favorite, just because it just seems so balanced. A Valkyrie and then Predator kind of clashing on in front of Asgard there. And Miles Morales, Spider-Man, using his Venom sting to try and get the upper hand.
That's the fight I would love to see, with both of them just being invisible and trying to hunt each other down. That would be really cool.
And finally, Spider-Woman, which we've read a lot of lately. There's a new issue this week, but attacking the Predator on the subway. Why not? More Predator 2-ish than anything, but
right. Yeah, these covers are awesome. I can't wait to get new Predator comics. I'm still holding out hope that they interact with the Marvel Universe a little bit. I think that would be really, really cool. Not too hopeful of that, but either way, I'm excited to see the Predator new comics.
So I'm just gonna make sure there's not anything breaking before we depart.
It does feel these days like that could happen at any moment for Marvel. So
they did announce today that Marvel Day at Sea will be returning in 2022. Kind of 2021 was a bit of a wash, but I got a chance to do it last year, and it's worth the price of admission just to see Spider-Man crawl up the funnel of the Disney magic. So it'll be coming in the spring, some select cruises in January, February, March. They're also doing Star Wars Day at Sea, but we'll leave that for our friends tomorrow to discuss. And this week, WandaVision, cannot wait.
I am a little bit worried that because we're in that stretch now where we're not, we've gotten away from the big stuff in the middle of the season, but we're not quite to the end of the season. I think we might get another sort of episode to stretch things out a little bit. Like maybe the episode ends on a cliffhanger where we're about to meet the aerospace engineer, something like that. So I wouldn't be shocked if we go in that direction.
I will also say it's not Marvel, but it features Marvel characters. Flora and Ulysses debuts this Friday on Disney Plus. It's about a girl who I would say discovers a superhero squirrel, and not to be confused with Squirrel Girl, and but definitely takes advantage of the Disney Marvel synergy, as well as features 4 cast members from DuckTales.
Oh yeah, that's a great cast.
So anything to say before we wrap this?
Well, yeah, we'll be talking about Flora and Ulysses on Monday for LP Movie Club as well. So
absolutely. And at 7:30 tonight, we got our weekly news video. And tomorrow, I believe Jeremiah will be at Disney's Hollywood Studios. So there's a lot going on. Just ring the bell if you're on YouTube, and we'll let you know whenever we go live, which is more than it probably should be. And we'll talk to everybody later. Bye, everybody.
Bye.